Look at this heart model. You have the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, anterior interventricular artery, pulmonary trunk, aortic arch, superior vena cava or cava. If you take this off the stand, IVC, inferior vena cava, coronary sinus, posterior interventricular artery, which is part of the right coronary artery. The front anterior interventricular artery was coming off of the left coronary artery. Let's go over to the brain next. So when you look at the brain, front lobe, what do we call the front lobe? That's the frontal lobe. Back lobe, we call the occipital lobe. What is this structure right here? So that's your cerebellum. What also you can identify on this, what do we call this long fissure separating the left and the right? That's called the longitudinal fissure. This pink, what do we call that? Pre or post-central gyrus? The pink will be the pre-central gyrus. Pre, before. Post, meaning towards the back, towards the cerebellum. So pinkish red is pre-central gyrus. Blue is post-central gyrus. What's between the pink and the blue? That will be called the central sulcus. So central sulcus is between the pink and the blue. The pink is pre-central gyrus. Blue will be post-central gyrus. Go back to your notes to determine which one is sensory, which one is motor. Sensory being touch, feeling pain, feeling temperature changes. Motor would be contraction of a muscle with that. So looking at this, all you need to do is identify the optic nerve. So here's the optic nerve right there. Looking at this, you can identify what is this called. It's towards the back, that's the cerebellum. What's the green called? That's your occipital lobe. Very frontal lobe. Temporal lobe is around the ear region. How many parietal lobes do we have? 2 of them. So let's look at this one next. So what type of neuron are we looking at collectively? Multi or bipolar? This would be multipolar. Many structures coming off of the cell body. So each of the structures coming off of the cell body we call the dendrite. So dendrite, structures coming off of the cell body. Within the cell body, you can identify this circle that contains DNA called the nucleus. So here's the nucleus. What is this? This region we call the axon hillock. So axon hillock, that's where we generate action potentials from. So action potentials are born at the axon hillock. So nucleus, axon hillock, all of these projections are dendrites. Inside, we call that the axon. We have a coating around the axon we call the myelin. So axon is the pinkish dead center. Here's the axon. Wrapping around, you can identify the actual myelin. So let's look at this model next. This is showing blood not under a microscope, but pretend it's under a microscope. These blue dots we call the platelets, thrombocytes. Main function, form clots ultimately. What about these red circles? These red circles we call erythrocytes. That's your red blood cells. They will carry respiratory gases. When you look at this cell, how many nuclei do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, making it a neutrophil. So all you need to know for this model is platelets and their function, form clots. Red blood cell identifying and their function carry respiratory gases. So let's head over to the back and then we'll point to the